Welcome to the West Coast WVU podcast brought to you by the 224 Podcast Network. My name is James Brooks. I'm your host. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. And for being July, we have quite a bit to talk about. So we're just going to jump right on into it. But before I get started, I just want to give a quick shout out to InnoGear, INNOGEAR, for this podcast boom arm. I will say if you are getting into podcasting or into anything where you might need a microphone stand or a boom arm type of thing, this is a super great product. It was only $24. I got it off the TikTok shop. I have it featured in my showcase on my TikTok profile at West Coast WVU. Super lightweight, not too big, not too cumbersome, was super easy to put together, and just the perfect thing for me to put my microphone on so I don't have to be holding my microphone up like this anymore. So shout out to InnoGear. Definitely wanted to give that a shout out and let you all know that you can find it for, I think, free shipping, free 3-day shipping on TikTok shop. So definitely go check that out on the showcase in my profile. So first, to kick things off, I wanted to kind of talk about Wren Baker. There's been some rumors and some news floating around about the Oklahoma job. So the current Oklahoma athletic director announced that he'll be retiring after this next season of sports. And so naturally, Wren Baker, West Virginia's athletic director, got brought into discussions about that just online. I mean, I don't think anything was super credible other than just the fact that Wren Baker is from Oklahoma. He went to, I think it was Southeastern Oklahoma State or Southeastern Oklahoma University for undergrad. He went to Oklahoma State for his master's. He worked at Oklahoma State for a little bit to kick off his career. And so a program like Oklahoma, right? It's a big program now in the SEC. And it's hard to imagine that if he is indeed a candidate, which you have to imagine at the very least he is a candidate. He might not be the primary candidate, at least not as of right now, but you have to think that that would be a hard opportunity for him to pass up. I could imagine his roots being in Oklahoma, a program like Oklahoma would be really hard for him to pass up. So it's something to think about, to keep in the back of our minds. It's so hard to imagine Wren Baker not being a part of West Virginia's program. I mean, it feels like he just got here in some ways, right? He's done a really great job in the few years he's been here so far. He's done a good, he brought in these uniform concepts that we love talking about. I mean, in my last episode, I was shouting out Wren Baker for in my opinion doing a great job. I think a lot of people would give him in my an A. For the job he's done. He's navigated the NIL situation and the cost sharing situation and all the different financial aspect of college sports changing and stuff. He's navigated that well. And so I don't know. I think it's hard to imagine him not being with West Virginia, especially since he's done such a great job during this big transition period in college athletics and whatnot. And I do think that he really is a good guy, at least from the outside looking in. He seems like a really great guy who he's learned to love West Virginia, and he's embraced the state. You see him posting all the time about going on trips across the state, taking his family around places, like just integrating with the people of West Virginia. And you don't see a whole lot of athletic directors doing that kind of stuff, or at least I haven't in the past. So shout out to Wren Baker for that. I just think it's so hard to imagine him bouncing. And I think there's a lot of people that feel that way with West Virginia. It's kind of, and I've learned this as I've become a West Virginia fan in some ways, like West Virginia in a lot of ways, that criticism, it's not really a criticism of West Virginia. It's just kind of how things have ended up. But the criticism towards people that use West Virginia as a stepping stone. Look at Darian DeVries, the basketball coach who came in for one season last year, did a pretty good job for the most part. You have to think like if he was more bought in to staying, and there's those rumors that he was talking with Indiana before, in the middle of the season, and redshirted his son and stuff so he could get another year and they could go to Indiana together and all these things. Like if he would have been bought in and stuff. I think the basketball team had a good season. They missed the tournament. I think they undeservingly missed the tournament, and then he bounced, right? And that's like the one of the worst uh, examples, I guess, where he's there for literally a year and then bounces to Indiana, which in his words is like a you can't pass up an opportunity to coach in Indiana. I mean, but not to go down that rabbit hole. It feels almost like a similar situation potentially. And again, I think that there's been a lot of accounts on Twitter and news outlets and stuff that are feeding into this Wren Baker thing more than needs to be so far. I think again, he will likely be a candidate. It's hard to imagine that he won't be a candidate, but there's no reason to believe that he is like their number one candidate right now. Could it get that way? Yes, but don't want to put the cart before the horse necessarily in this situation. But just something to kind of keep it in the back of your mind. I mean, it doesn't change the way I feel about Wren Baker. I think again, it sucks in some ways. Like he's done a great job. You would love to see him stay with West Virginia for as long as, for at least for longer than he's been here so far, and really be able to integrate some things. And he brought in, well, he brought in DeVries. That didn't work out, but it looked promising. Um, the new basketball coach seems to be, we've brought in a few good recruits. It seems like bringing back Rich Rod, moving off Neil Brown, bringing back Rich Rod. Remains to be seen how that will go, but I think that is a promising move. Um, the baseball team is in a good position right now. Um, the women's basketball team it has a good coach and is in a really good position. So I think he's done a really good job. And if he were to leave after this next like school year, I think he's left a good mark with West Virginia, and he'll leave West Virginia in a good place, in good hands. But I say this not knowing who really is out there. It's hard to imagine there being a better athletic director that could even replace him and stuff. So it's tough. Again, I don't want to put too much into it because I agree that I think some of the people that are talking about it were putting the cart before the horse, and people, and I can't blame West Virginia fans for feeling this way because of right the way Rich Rod left the first time, the Darian DeVry situation. I'm sure there's other situations that I'm not even privy to as a newer West Virginia fan, but um, I can't blame West Virginia fans for getting worried and starting to worry about the situation. But also at the same time, he's still here. He's gonna keep doing good stuff for the athletic program and stuff. But just something to be aware of, I guess. Like don't want it to be a surprise when the news does come out that he is like a top three candidate for the Oklahoma AD job. And at that point, you just got to hope that he doesn't get the job. I mean, I don't want to wish bad luck on him or anything like that, but also selfishly, I want him to stay with West Virginia. So, anyways, all right, I'm going to take a quick break and we're jump into the next segment. Welcome back. All right, so really quick, also just want to touch on some news from a baseball front, which is JJ Wetherholt, who is, he was played at West Virginia, was a top, I think he was the number 7 draft pick last season. He's currently the number 1 prospect in the Cardinals farm system. He was just brought up to their AAA squad, which is a big deal. He's currently, or he slashed 300, 425, 466 with 22 extra base hits, 34 RBIs, and 14 stolen bases in 62 games with Springfield this year. So playing really well. Really cool to see more Mountaineers doing well at the professional level. And it's only a matter of time, I think, before JJ gets brought up to the big leagues, honestly. And honestly, I haven't been paying too much attention to how the Cardinals are doing this season, but I imagine it's only a matter of time before he gets brought up. So um, I just want to touch on that from a baseball standpoint. So going from there, the other big thing that's been talked about this week is a article from The Athletic, which I don't have a New York Times account. Like I don't pay monthly for it, so I couldn't get access to the full article. But I did post the top 25. Um, they post like the top 100 rivalries in college football, and I will say West Virginia got left off of this top 25 list, which I think is overall I think is wrong. We're gonna go through it, and I'll give you my opinions. So the list, and I'll see if I can post the list uh, on the screen here if you're watching on YouTube. But top 25, I'm just gonna go through really quick. Number one, Michigan, Ohio State. Okay. Number two, Auburn, Alabama. Number three, Oklahoma, Texas. Number four, Army, Navy. Number five, USC, Notre Dame. Number six, Nebraska, Oklahoma. Number seven, Miami, Florida, and Florida State. Number eight is Ohio State and Penn State. Number nine is Florida and Florida State. Number 10 is Minnesota, Wisconsin. 11, Alabama, Tennessee. 12, Georgia, Florida. 13, Alabama, LSU. 14, USC, UCLA. 15, Texas and Texas A&M. 16 is Michigan and Michigan State. 17, Auburn and Georgia. 18, Michigan and Notre Dame. 19, Kansas against Missouri. Number 20 is Harvard, Yale. 21, Washington, Oregon. 22, Iowa, Wisconsin. Ole Miss, sorry, 22, Iowa, Wisconsin. 23, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. 24 is Clemson, South Carolina. And 25 is Oklahoma, Oklahoma State. And then from what I've heard, again, I haven't been able to read the article, but number 26 was West Virginia and Pitt. So a lot of West Virginia fans have made their opinions clear that West Virginia should not be off of a top 25 list when it comes to the top college football rivalries, and I agree with that. I think, and at this point, and I'd imagine this is what they say in the article. The only reason that the backyard brawl is not in the top 25 is because it doesn't get played every year. Pitt, West Virginia, they're not in the same conference, and the games that we've been playing the last 4 years have just been, non-conference schedules. So I understand that in some ways, but it doesn't take away, in my opinion, like I don't think that should take away from the rivalry. Like if we're ranking just the rivalry itself, like, and in some ways I think that's bolstered the rivalry in some ways, having that little break. And not to say that I'm glad that that happened. I think that this rivalry should be played every year and should have been played every year for the last 10 plus years or however long it was before it got started up again. Um, but but to be off of the top 25 list is ridiculous. I mean, let's just go through the list here. I think the first one, Minnesota, Wisconsin, not better than the backyard brawl. USC, UCLA, not better than the backyard brawl. And I was raised a UCLA fan. My dad went to UCLA. I grew up a UCLA fan. I love the UCLA USC rivalry for that reason. It's not better than the backyard brawl. Um, I think Michigan State at 16 is one that you could argue. Like I think that one is similar, right? It's a proximity rivalry. Of course, they're in the same conference, so they play it. They're able to play every year. But Michigan State. Let's see what else. Kansas, Missouri, not better than the backyard brawl. Harvard, Yale. I don't know if it's better than the backyard brawl. I think it deserves to be in the top 25 list. I think the history of that rivalry is really cool. Washington, Oregon, not better than the backyard brawl. Iowa, Wisconsin, not better than the backyard brawl. Ole Miss, Mississippi State, not better than the backyard brawl. Like, I think the backyard brawl with this list, if you have Minnesota, Wisconsin at number 10, and maybe I'm just out of it. I don't, growing up a UCLA fan, now being a West Virginia fan, I paid attention to Pac-12 a lot, pay attention to Big 12 now. I mean, I pay attention to all of college football, obviously, but like maybe I'm just missing something when it comes to the Big Ten with Minnesota, Wisconsin. But Minnesota, Wisconsin being number 10, I don't, how is that? I'm going to need someone to point me to what makes that better than the backyard brawl, other than it's not played, the backyard brawl is not played every year, which I get it. Like having a rivalry that's not played every year in the top 10, maybe that's a little tough, but the rivalry itself, it's been going on for over a century, like 100 plus games. Like it's one of the oldest rivalries in college football. Um, yeah, even like I mean, I part of me wants to say like Army Navy. The thing is like USC Notre Dame is like a historic rivalry that I don't know how many people really care about that rivalry anymore. And they have it at number five in the top five. I would, and maybe it's just recency bias. Maybe you do have to take into account the history and things like that. But in terms of like the rivalries people care about the most today, I mean USC Notre Dame is in there, and I understand. Like it's one of those things that I know that historically it's a rivalry, but and maybe US. It's one of those rivalries that like only the two fan bases care about. And maybe you could argue the same for Pitt and West Virginia. There are certain rivalries that like I think over like that fans that are not just fans of the team care about, like Michigan Ohio State being number one. That makes sense. Like I don't have any ties to Michigan or Ohio State, and I still like tuning in for that rivalry. Oklahoma, Texas, Auburn, Alabama, Nebraska, Oklahoma. What do they have that at? Number six. I don't know. Rivalries are so subjective because like unless you're a fan of that team, no one cares about it more than you, right? So with the backyard brawl, I care about it more than maybe other people do, and maybe I'm just really biased, and it's really hard to be subjective when it comes to that stuff. I'm gonna have to maybe I'll do a follow up in my next episode. I'll subscribe just so I can read the article and get some more information and the reasonings behind it, so I can really make a good argument. But there are at least five or six rivalries in this top 25 that are not better than the backyard brawl, and I feel very confident about that. I have a hard time believing that anyone could argue with me that Kansas, Missouri is better, that USC, UCLA is better, um, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Oklahoma. Like I just have a hard time believing anyone can argue that any of those are better. I mean, Michigan, Notre Dame at 18. I didn't even know I didn't even know that was considered a rivalry. And maybe that's on me. Maybe I'm just not a crazy college football fan, which trust me, I'm a college football fan, but am I crazy for not knowing that Michigan Notre Dame was a rivalry? Washington, Oregon. I mean, it's a rivalry. Like those are good games typically, but is that better than the backyard brawl? No. Also, shout out to my sister for this backyard brawl T-shirt. I feel a little bad because of the way I'm sitting in my desk. I can only see the pit side, but underneath it says West Virginia. West Virginia. um. So, anyways, I don't know. West Virginia gets shafted again in this, and also the backyard. Not even to mention like the Black Diamond Trophy against Virginia Tech. Like that's also a great rivalry. That I wouldn't say it's better than the backyard brawl, obviously, but and I don't know. Maybe you can argue that that one's not in the top 25, but even then, and it's tough again. That's another rivalry that gets left off of a list like this because it's not played every season. And like the more I think about it, and I understand that West Virginia being in the Big 12 is best for West Virginia from like a I don't know, revenue sharing standpoint, money standpoint, TV media rights standpoint, better than the ACC. But the more and more I think about it, the more I'm like, we love college football for these types of rivalries and stuff. And like the fact that West Virginia doesn't get to play Pitt and Virginia Tech and all in these like more regional schools every season is really it's really a shame. Like I who cares about West Virginia playing Colorado? Like, yeah, that game will be fun. I mean, you don't have Travis Hunter and Shadur anymore, but like you have Deion Sanders coaching and like coming into Morgantown. Like that'll be a fun game, hopefully. But the more I think about it, and like yes, being on the West Coast for me, like it's fun. There is an aspect that's fun that we play BYU and Arizona State and Arizona and Colorado. Like these games are much closer if I wanted to go to an away game, right? I could get to Arizona State in 6 hours. I could drive there in 6 hours and like attend those games. Will I with a having a 2 year old? Probably not. But uh, it's cool to have the option to if we wanted to make a little road trip vacation out of it and stuff like that. Like I do like that, but I don't like it more than being able to play Pitt or Virginia Tech. I'd much rather be able to tune in from home watching us play our big rivals in Virginia Tech and Pitt and stuff than playing random schools that are now in the Big 12 because of conference realignment. I just think conference realignment, for a long time, I was trying to be positive about it. There's a lot of people that are saying like conference realignment is ruining college sports, ruining college football. And I try to be positive about it and think of like in the terms of like, well, I get to watch, West Virginia will come out to the West Coast or at least to the West a little more, maybe not the West Coast, but to like Arizona, Utah, Colorado, those types of states, and that is exciting and cool. And I was positive about it in that sense, given my current location. But the more I think about it, and the more I've been like in the off season, I tend to go onto YouTube and try and watch like old games. And I've been watching, you know, uh, West Virginia against Virginia Tech in the early 2000s, West Virginia during against Pitt in the 2000s, and in those games, and it's just so much. It's so much more fun, even though I wasn't there, even though I was like young when those games were being played. It's fun to go back and rewatch those and like understanding that these are like real rivalries. Where like beating Virginia Tech in 2002 and beating them again in 2003. The win against Louisville in 2005. Like these are games where people were pumped, people are burning couches, people are partying. Like the vibes were in like just really good. And maybe it's just because West Virginia football is just in with the in the Neil Brown era. In the Neil Brown era, we're just down, like just down. Like things we weren't winning games, not playing a whole lot of meaningful games outside of the backyard brawl, and maybe it just wasn't. It hasn't been as fun lately, right? But in a lot of ways, it's I don't know. I just think that we should be playing the schools that our fans care about playing against, and hopefully we get back to it soon. But and then maybe we can get on these top 25 lists. But I'm going to take a quick break before our last segment, and then we'll get out of here. All right, welcome back. The last thing I wanted to talk about was this week is the Big 12 football media day or week, I guess. Yesterday, there were some schools. Today, I'm recording on, was it Tuesday? No, it's Wednesday, July 9th. I think West Virginia is going today. So I don't have any updates or news on that for this episode. Maybe in my next episode, I'll go through some of the things that were talked about during media day. But yesterday, Brett Yormark, the Big 12 commissioner, he said that, quote, I believe we will be the deepest football conference in America. I fully expect the Big 12 to earn multiple college football playoff bids this year, which, I mean, I respect the trying to sell the conference. And I do think, I mean, the more the more teams you have in the conference, the deeper you're going to be just by definition in some ways. Is the Big 12 really going to be deeper than the SEC or the Big 10? Is this true? Are these true statements? And in some ways, like there's been some preseason rankings of the Big 12 where they have West Virginia at like 13, 14, in the bottom of the Big 12. And myself and I think most West Virginia fans don't think that that's going to be the case. I think we have a hard time seeing Rich Rod losing more than, I don't know, 6, 7 games, because that's you have to be like a 3-win team to be at the bottom of the Big 12. And I just have a hard time seeing that. I mean, we do play like Utah is typically a good school. TCU typically does what they've done well recently. Like the schedule is decently tough, but I have a hard time seeing us being in the bottom. And but that being said, like if people legitimately think West Virginia is going to be in the bottom of the Big 12, then maybe that is proof that the Big 12 is pretty deep this year and whatnot. So just thought that was an interesting point, and we'll have more in my next episode about Big 12 Media Day and West Virginia specifically, and what Rich Rod and some of the players have to say. So definitely looking forward to that. And again, if you like this content, if you like listening to me, go check me out on TikTok. I mean, I'm on all social media. TikTok is where I'm on the most lately, at West Coast WVU on TikTok, on X, on Instagram. Go check out my showcase on TikTok if you're in the market for a boom arm for a mic. The attachment works on, I think, pretty much all mics. This is the mic I use is the Rode NT USB Mini, and it just has a little adapter that I was able to screw on there for this. But pretty much all the main mics that most people that do podcasts and stuff use, I think it works on. And you really can't beat, $24, free shipping, and lightweight, easy to use, all that stuff. So definitely go check them out. And that's all I got. Until next time, go Mountaineers.